Nursery Crop Science at NC State University presents another installment of Field Intelligence, a production of the Commercial Horticulture Information Portal found at nurserycropscience.info. This is the first part of a series on using cover crops in nursery production. Part 1 addresses types of cover crops and their establishment. The video is narrated by Emily Bernstein and written and produced by Anthony Lebude.
So I'm going to talk about some general characteristics of different cover crops. There's three general categories: grains, legumes, and mustards. There are some differences, of course, between different grains or different legumes, but they generally have some of the same characteristics and patterns. For establishment, you can use broadcast seeding. A drill will work even better for getting good seed incorporation. If you're broadcasting, then you'll want to come back and incorporate the seed with the light disking. For grains, in general, your target seed depth is 1 inch with the drill, or if you're incorporating, that's how deep you want to incorporate. For legumes, they tend to be a little bit shallower. So for small seeded clovers, like crimson clover, white clover, and also vetch, your seed depth that you're aiming for is more like 1/2 inch or even shallower. For a larger seeded legume like peas, you're looking for a 1.5 to 3 inch seed depth. And then for mustards, again, they're small seeded, so that's a pretty shallow seed incorporation, 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. And in general, all of these are easy to establish. White clover is a perennial, so it's a little bit slower at first compared to the other annual cover crops. All the grains grow pretty similar to each other. Some mature a little bit faster than the others. Within the legumes, you'll see pretty similar growth rates and growth types too. But you'll notice some of the vetches and peas will climb. They have tendrils. And things like the white clover and crimson clover don't climb. They're more a bush type growth pattern. If you're establishing both small seeded and large seeded cover crops, so you have different seed incorporation depths, one thing you can do is first do the deeper seeds. So do your grains or your peas, incorporate to 1 inch, and then you can just broadcast something like a clover or a vetch on top of the soil and either do a very light incorporation or none at all. So with the different growth types, there is a definite benefit to mixing grains and legumes. The climbing legumes like vetches and peas really benefit to having that tall grain that they can climb up. And so you'll have a beneficial relationship between these two, and you'll get more biomass produced too from that legume. White clover, a perennial legume cover crop, benefits to having a nurse crop there. So something like a grain to help protect it from wind and cold. For example, we have white clover by itself and then also white clover mixed with rye. And we saw where the white clover was mixed with rye, it's taller, there's more biomass, it established better, germination was better, and overall the white clover is looking a lot better where it's planted under rye than where it's just by itself. Grains and legumes work really well together because grains are nitrogen scavengers. They'll find what's in the field, take it up, and hold it so it's not leaving the field over the winter. Legumes actually fix nitrogen out of the atmosphere, so they're putting nitrogen into the soil. So mixing those two together, you'll not only save the nitrogen that's there, that may be left over from your fertilizer, but you'll fix new nitrogen and have that available and held for after you incorporate the cover crop, and it'll be there and available for your nursery crop. Mustards are also scavengers, but a little bit different than grains because they're less woody, they're a lot easier to incorporate, so that nitrogen is more easily available. So they're higher in nitrogen and lower in carbon compared to a grain, so that's why that nitrogen is more easily available. Now grains, on the other hand, can have a very high carbon and low nitrogen ratio, so they're scavenging all that nitrogen, but they're so woody, they break down slowly, that nitrogen is not usually very available. And that's another benefit of mixing grains and legumes, is when they're mixed together, even though those grains are woody and slower to break down, if they're there with a legume, that material together will break down faster. to provide a more even release of nitrogen, so the nitrogen's more available to your next crop after they're incorporated.
This project received support from the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services as part of the Specialty Crops Block Grant Program. It is also supported by the Department of Horticultural Science at NC State and the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. The North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association. Thank you for watching and listening to Field Intelligence, a production of the Nursery Crop Science Commercial Horticulture Information Portal, or CHIP, found at the address nurserycropscience.info. Field Intelligence is a video and audio journal about the green industry that highlights important events, plants, people, and the ideas leading the nursery industry. The lessons learned from talking and visiting with growers are timeless values that can help the green industry in North Carolina increase economic activity, produce plants more efficiently, and remain competitive.